We've got MU's own Dr. Ball here with a program he likes to call Jump Into Action. Mr. Ball, what is Jump Into Action?
It's a fifth grade obesity diabetes prevention program for fifth graders. It's been around in Missouri now for about 10 years. It's one of the extension programs that we're pretty proud of. We've reached over 50,000 fifth graders with this program.
Wow.
Pedometers, we were talking earlier, one of the components of Jump Into Action School, and we give every fifth grader a pedometer. They track their steps in physical education. Outside of PE, they set goals based on the number of steps that they're getting. It's been a very successful component of the program. It was featured in USA Today a few years ago, and other states have adopted its use. What it does, it helps kids in schools get more activity. It teaches them about nutrition. We send stuff home to the parents so that they can know what's going on in their schools, and hopefully it's making a difference in kids' lives and promoting physical activity and healthy behaviors beyond.
And so, when focusing with children, it seems as though kids are already pretty active. Why are they the important component for you to be focusing on to get more activity?
Yeah, it's unfair to say that kids are inactive, and you're exactly right. Kids are the most active part of society, but lots of kids aren't getting enough activity.
Right.
There's many kids that get lots, but there's some kids that don't get enough. And so we've got to figure out ways to provide multiple opportunities to get kids active. And so through a program like Jump Into Action, and another program that we have that we've been successful here in Missouri is called the Active and Healthy Schools program. We figure out ways for kids to be active before school, during school, in the classroom. How can we improve physical education? How can we improve intramurals, extracurricular activities outside of school? How can we reach the parents? How can we improve family activities? All these things will provide kids ways to increase the amount of activity that they get. And so the thing I always tell folks is inactivity tracks into adulthood. If you're inactive as a youngster, it's fairly likely that you'll be inactive as an adult. Also, obesity tracks. So if you're overweight as a youngster, it's more likely you'll be overweight as an adult. So it makes sense to me where we should focus a lot of our efforts in these young folks and teach them about health and nutrition and activity.
I believe that it's been a growing epidemic, obesity. Do you believe that it's important for us to be focusing then on the younger generations in order to prevent that statistic and that percentage from going up? Where are we at now?
Yeah, so 1 in 6 kids can be classified as obese, depending on what criteria you use. It's tripled in the last 20 to 30 years. Kids spend more time watching television than they do going to school. And inactivity has played a role, or less activity has played a role in this obesity epidemic. And obviously more young folks that are obese lead to more obese adults. So it makes sense to me that, again, an area that we can focus on are our youth, and the younger the better. Because as kids age, the obesity persistence in adulthood increases. So the longer that they're inactive, the longer that they're overweight, as they age, the greater percentage of those kids will be obese as adults.
And you did mention that a lot of children are focusing a lot of their time on screen time, their video games, their television. Now this big Netflix trend we have going on, even if they're not on a school week basis, they're going to be spending a lot of time indoors. Do you believe that this in-school activity is going to promote more of an active lifestyle, or where are they getting?
That's one of our hopes, right? But if you look at where kids get most of their activity, it's actually outside of school.
Really?
So we've got kids in a captive environment. That's great in schools, and that's definitely an area we want to focus because, again, we have them right there, and we can reach them, and we can implement some of these things. But if we don't reach the parents, if we don't talk about screen time, and actually one of the lessons we have in our Jump Into Action curriculum is teaching parents and kids about limiting the amount of screen time that they have and offering alternative solutions on things that they can do. It's pretty easy for parents to say, hey, go play your video game. Hey, here's a movie channel that you can watch, or a video game, whatever it might be, right? Well, if they don't know or have the skills to do an activity with their youth or their children or offer some alternative, you don't blame them, right? One of the things that we've been able to do with some of our grants is actually provide pedometers to the parents.
Really?
And so for the parents, so the kids have a pedometer at school, And you can see this one's numbered, so this was number 16, so this student had this pedometer at school, right? And they would wear this one again throughout the day, and they could be recording step counts. But having a pedometer at home means that the child could use it at home or the parent, and a lot of times we found that they would do activities together, and in some of our programming we've checked out pedometers to certain cohorts of students in the school, but they could actually take it home and wear it. Now, if the parent has one or the child has one, they're more likely to go out and do something together, right?
Right.
And so what you'll find is the fifth graders asking mom or dad, hey, how many steps did you get today? Right? We didn't get enough steps, let's go get some more steps in. We actually have the kids teach the parents how to open the pedometers, how to reset them, how to monitor, how to their steps and activity over time. So the kids enjoy teaching the parents about how to use this device, and I think it makes it more likely they're going to use it at home. So a very simple device. There's more complicated ways to measure physical activity, and for research we would use something more sophisticated. But as a simple measure to promote activity, to get kids and parents thinking about steps and activity, a simple thing like this can make a difference. We give them to the teachers as well, and the teachers track how many steps that they're getting, and we encourage them to make it public. And so your teacher, you're encouraging your own teacher in your classroom, say, hey, Mrs. Johnson, how many steps do you have today? Mrs. Smith across the halls has more steps. Let's do an activity so we can all get some more. So little things like that can change the culture and environment of the school so that they appreciate physical activity, nutrition, and health. Whereas typically the culture in a school and the environment of the school tell all of our young folks that we value academics, which we do, but let's send a new message.
So what's nice about the implementation of these pedometers that they're allowing kids both to interact with their parents and set goals mutually, but also to feel a little tech savvy without the necessity of having their computers or their video games with them to do that. And as you've mentioned, in the schools, they're actually trying to focus on nutrition just a little bit, and they're trying to get kids aware of it, but they're thinking that for some reason academics are the stronghold of this environment, and if we're taking less time for our academics and our standardized tests, then we're not going to thrive as an elementary school or as a university. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so I always have people think about, what do you see when you walk into an elementary school? You see things on the walls about reading and writing and history, and there might be art projects and drawings, and there's a computer lab, and there's pens and paper, and there's probably signs that say don't run, and there's books, libraries, right? And everything, kids sitting quietly studying, and everything gives the message to the kids that we appreciate academics, which we should.
Sure.
That's one of our missions, right? Our goal with the Jump to Action program and Active and Healthy Schools program is also to change the culture and environment of the schools so that kids also appreciate health, nutrition, and physical activity. So pedometers might be a part of that, right? But zone playgrounds might be a part. We might be changing, as you mentioned, what kids are eating, and working with the parents to set goals and things like that. Traditionally, it's been difficult to get into schools, to come to get over the barrier of, if we spend, as you mentioned, more time with this program, or in physical education, or in recess, or in activity breaks, that we're spending less time with reading and writing and mathematics and those types of things. We're not going to do as well on our standardized test. That barrier is becoming easier to overcome because of the research that's been done in the last 20 years regarding this. There's a body of literature, there's lots of evidence now to show that active kids do better academically than inactive kids.
Really?
There's also an acute effect. So if you take activity breaks, kids are better learners. They're ready to sit down and learn and soak up the information. Whereas if they're seated all day, they're not as attentive. They need those types of breaks. I always give the example of college kids, right? My college students in my introduction to exercise and fitness class can't sit there for 15, 20, 30 minutes even and not daydream or fidget or want to get up and move. And so think about a fifth grader. So the body of literature, the research that's been done now regarding activity time in the classroom, recess, physical education, intramurals, extracurricular activities, is now overwhelming enough to go to principals and superintendents and teachers and say, guess what? If you take activity breaks and you implement some of these things that we're doing in our program, your kids are going to do better on their standardized tests. and that's pretty powerful.
Well, with the epidemic of obesity and inactivity in children on the rise, either the steps of pedometers or zone playgrounds and the inactivity being taken away by the interactivity of parents and their children, these are all small steps to help fifth graders and other kids in all populations around the country to jump into action. Thank you, Dr. Paul.
Good luck.